Fight fans, it's time for Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George DeMattelis alongside the champions, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and ESPN analyst Tim Bradley to talk about a little bit of controversy involving David Benavidez over this past weekend. Now, he was at the fight for his stablemate, Diego Pacheco, and was interviewed ringside by DAZN's Chris Mannix. And afterwards on his Instagram, he just wanted to take this time to apologize to all my fans and to the people that seen me drunk last night. I had one too many drinks and made a complete fool of myself. SMH, this will never happen ever again. Now, David Benavidez has been involved in some controversies in the past, and with the opportunity or possible opportunity to fight Canelo Alvarez, Chris, how does this behavior maybe give Canelo a little bit of fuel to say, hey, we don't want to make this fight here? What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, it certainly doesn't look good. You know, he is in training right now. He's been posting quite a bit about his sparring and he's working. In terms of, you know, how it relates to this fight versus Vosdick, we're still 11, 12 weeks out. So in terms of, you know, preparedness is one thing, but if it wasn't for the fact that he's had problems in the past, he has a history of some extracurricular stuff, I'll put it that way, that has put his career in jeopardy, it makes you more concerned. You kind of think, where's his head at? What are the people around him who are looking after him? What are they thinking? Doing an interview like that can be tough. I do appreciate his honesty and his response. Yeah, I mean, listen, again, that can happen. But really, I mean, when you're in training, there's not really a place for alcohol consumption, especially that much, to where you're going to be like that. But just being at a fight, being in public when you are a public figure that way, not a good look.
Yeah, Paulie, what do you make of David Benavidez in that situation there with the fight and being inebriated, apologizing on Instagram, and how that could affect his possibility of fighting Canelo?
I mean, I don't see how it would affect the possibility of fighting Canelo. I told you already, Canelo wasn't going to fight him whether he's drunk or whether he's sober or whether there's anything. Canelo ain't going anywhere near the Benavidez regardless. So that's how, one thing has definitely got nothing to do with the other, even though people will make it one thing about the other. Absolutely no shot that Canelo was ever going to fight that guy regardless. But it's not a great thing, obviously. It's you know, he's young and you still recover. It's 11, 12 weeks out. So, you know, you can recover. You can, you know, okay, you had to get away from camp. You went to Vegas to see this fight. Then you're going to go back to camp and continue your camp, and you got 11, 12 weeks. And I'm sure it'll be fine because you recover a lot faster when you're much younger. Having said that, you know, it's still something that you want to keep in mind. As you get a little older, your body holds these things more and doesn't recover as fast, and it affects you little by little by little. So it's something I think this may be the best thing that could have happened to him was maybe him, you know, going through this interview and realizing that, you know, he kind of was a bad look for him. You can now think about the past when he failed the other cocaine test a few years ago, and you say, okay, he may have to make a decision in his life where, you know, I want to be the best. And I prioritize boxing more than anything else, and I have to stop doing this, you know. And I think if it wasn't so obvious, I'll give him credit. I'll tell you one thing. I'll give him credit that he knew all the answers. It's just
He was surprisingly coherent.
he knew all the answers. He was very coherent. If he wasn't slurring, he actually gave a good analysis of the question.
Did you see him take a swig before he answered?
yeah. But I think, was that one that he was trying to take when he was?
It didn't look. I don't know. It didn't really look like it.
But I give him credit there. But it's just he couldn't pull it off because he was too inebriated, and he was slurring his words.
For me, it was disturbing watching him, you know, put his career out there like that. Put you know, pretty much what he does out there, you know, in the public eye. I mean, that's something that if you want to get plastered, if you want to drink, that's something that you do at home. You know, you can't be doing that at night at the fights. You know, cameras are around. People are constantly videotaping you. Kids are around. You got, you know, fans, millions of fans watch that video. You know, little boys and girls that look up to you. And what type of, you know, message are you trying to send to those young children out there that's admiring you and love you and follow you as a fighter? Even the up-and-coming fighters. However, I would say, you know, the apology, it shows maturity. It shows that I believe that he really feels bad about it. You don't just come out with an apology like that and be sincere about it. He seemed like he was sincere about it. He was embarrassed, I'm sure. And I think moving forward, he's going to make better decisions. The fact that he's in camp, that's a bit disturbing as well. I don't care how many weeks is out. You know, one of the things that you mentioned, Paulie, you know, you didn't drink during camp. You don't drink during camp. I don't care. You don't. That's a no-no. Because the alcohol, it doesn't blend well with the training and staying up late and, you know, being dehydrated the next day and sparring and going into work. You know, you got to be clean. You understand, you doing that stuff, you're not going to perform at your absolute best for that long. Yes, he is young. I've seen guys in the past. I've even seen guys, you know, do cocaine and take different drugs and still still was able to fight. However, your career doesn't last that long, like you said, probably.
It catches up to you.
It will catch up with you eventually. But man, all the eyes are on you, David. You act correct. If you're at your very best, if you're not polluting your body with substances like that, man, it's gonna be hard to stop you. You want to give your you want to give yourself the best chance you possibly can to be your absolute best and to win in this game of boxing all the way through your entire career. So it's bad, but it's bad. However, it is what it is now. It's water under the bridge for him.
Yeah, definitely a lesson learned for David Benavidez. And next time we talk about him, it'll be related to activity in the ring. Time for a quick break here in Deep Waters. We'll continue here on ProBox TV. That main event between Leo and Baez is going to be fire at 126. Definitely don't want to miss it here on ProBox TV. Wednesday night fights, live boxing on your boxing channel. All right, let's talk about Canelo Alvarez, because he has that fight in less than a month against Jaime Munguia. So ESPN analyst Tim Bradley, has Canelo, to borrow a baseball term, lost his fastball? Is he the same fighter he was maybe 2 or 3 years ago? Has something deteriorated from Canelo?
Of course. I mean, he's older now. He's been in the business a very long time. He's accomplished a whole hell of a lot in the sport already. And moving forward, you can just tell the way he's moving, the way he's choosing and picking who to fight and who not to fight, and Benavidez included. He's toward the tail end of his career. I've been saying this for some time now, that Canelo is at the tail end of his career, and he doesn't want to go out on the bottom. He wants to go out on the top. There's some fighters out there that, they don't mind losing their shield, if I must say. They don't mind going out on the bottom. But Canelo seems to me that he's planning his exit, and he wants to go out on top with the win and still at the top of his, still in top form.
This is a harsh business, and it's always, what have you done for me lately? And yes, in his last couple fights, he hasn't been the same guy, and maybe he has lost that pitch. But honestly, you've lost that pitch until you find it again. Mm-hmm. If he goes out there and he stops Munguia and he puts on a great performance, then this is all going to be in the rearview anyway. Yeah. But I don't know if that's going to happen. He has a very, very stiff challenge in front of him. His last couple fights, obviously, were not the Canelo of old. John Ryder, he looked good in the beginning, but he didn't finish him. He put him down, sure, but he didn't have that extra gear that he used to have when he was younger to get guys out of there. He didn't take that extra risk to put extra hurt on his opponent to get him finished. And with a guy like Munguia, that's a very dangerous place to be. If he finds himself in there with a hurt Munguia and he lets him live, it could be a really long night for Canelo. And I think it's very easy to look at Canelo versus Munguia, and we're looking past Munguia already, but I don't know if that's a great idea.
Munguia, 43-0, 34 wins by knockout. All right, Paulie, the floor is yours to talk about Canelo and the fastball and as he lost a step.
The idiot of idiots can understand this one. The Denver Nuggets won the NBA title last year, right? Okay. This year, the Denver Nuggets, if under Canelo's rule set, they say, you know what? We won a title last year. We're the champs. We want to skip, a couple of guys, a couple of the good teams in the Western Conference playoffs this year, because you know what? They're kind of good. And, we want to make our way right to the finals. We're still the defending champions. And then the team that makes it out of the East, we're not really comfortable playing them. So we're going to play the team that loses the Eastern Conference finals instead, because we match up a little bit better with them, and maybe we can, and you know what? We owe it to the Denver Nuggets, because Jokic is such a good player, and he's done so much, and everybody's in town for the NBA Finals. Everybody's watching the NBA Finals, so it's still the NBA Finals. So we owe these guys, because they had such a good team last year, and they deserve to.
Ollie, you're comparing team sports to a single man sport. It's different.
Okay, let's play tennis then. Let's go with tennis.
I'm just saying it's different, Paulie. At the end of the day, and it's not Canelo's fault that the sanctioning bodies are not forcing.
It is Canelo's fault, but he can still do the right thing. He's still a sportsman, and he needs to push the sport. The sport has to move. The hamster wheel has to turn. If you jam it, if you put a monkey wrench in there, you jam it for everybody else, and you set a bad precedent for everybody else. And that's why we have a generation that doesn't fight anybody. We got
look,
we got a super lightweight division where nobody fights anybody. We got top fighters.
Nobody on this panel has been on the level of Canelo, not even including myself.
It's
I've
not
never
even
been on the level of.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I don't know how I would react if I had control on who I want to fight, Paul.
Imagine Muhammad Ali did that. Imagine Muhammad Ali acted like Canelo. Can you imagine Muhammad Ali would have acted like Canelo? Muhammad Ali fought everybody in their prime, and that's why boxing became so big the generation after him. In the 80s, because of Muhammad Ali's greatness, in the 80s, boxing was all over network TV with major ratings. Why? Because the previous generation, Ali did what Ali did. You know what I'm saying? And not he didn't win every fight. He got beat sometimes, but he took on every tough opponent, the biggest risk he could find in their prime. Sometimes not even his prime, in their primes, like with George Foreman. You know what I mean? And sometimes he got beat, the Ken Norton fights and whatnot, and he'd come back and he did it. But the way he did it is the way a champion does it. He was not bigger than the sport. Okay, he was, and he didn't act that way. And later on, everybody thanks him. Everybody looks at him as the greatest of all time for multiple reasons. You have a responsibility when you're on that level. It's not just you're on that level, you take advantage of it.
Munguia is a credible.
Munguia is basically the fourth guy in the weight class right now. I mean, Morrell beats him. Benavidez beats him. And possibly Canelo beats him. You know what I mean?
All right, hold on, guys, because we're going to talk about Munguia after the break. So we'll hold those thoughts, and we'll talk about Munguia here on Deep Waters. Welcome back to Deep Waters. Now, before the break, Paulie and Tim were talking about Jaime Munguia and how he fits in the weight class there. Chris, what do you make of Jaime Munguia? Can he win this fight? How does this impact the future of that weight class if he wins?
As I said in the opening statement, I mean, Munguia is a tough guy, and it's going to be really what version of Canelo shows up and what kind of fight we're going to get. Munguia recently teamed up with Freddie Roach. Did excellent against John Ryder. Looked phenomenal. Added new weapons to his game. His defense was actually augmented by his offense. His offense was that much better. His ability to control the space, his ability to use the right hand, which Freddie's really good at getting his guys to take punches out of their holster. He did that for Manny Pacquiao. He gave him that right hook, which he really wasn't known for. Freddie helped him to develop that and did something similar with that Munguia fight against Ryder. He looked excellent with the right hand, which is important against the southpaw. Curious to see what they can do against Canelo. I mean, listen, there's not really a secret to what Canelo brings to the table. Freddie's just a smart guy who analyzes his opponents, looks to break them down, and if he can pass on some of that knowledge onto Munguia, because listen, you're not going to change a guy completely. Munguia is still going to be Munguia. He's still an offensive machine. He's a come-forward kind of guy. But I've heard that Freddie was saying that their plan was to really pick it up in the second half of the fight. I think that's a good idea. If we've seen nothing from Canelo in terms of his consistency, it's that he fades late. He's been fading late for a number of years now. It's not even that recent that that's been happening. I was talking earlier about how he used to finish guys off. Now it's not so much. He hurts guys early. He puts them down like we saw in the Ryder fight. But then he ends up cruising to a decision.
Munguia is basically maybe the fourth guy in the weight class. So if the Western Conference champion Denver Nuggets decide to get to the finals and say, we're going to play the Eastern Conference Finals loser instead of the Eastern Conference Finals winner, still a good matchup, but it just ain't the matchup you're supposed to have. You know what I mean? So that's basically what we're getting here. It's still a good matchup. It's a solid matchup, especially if there's a slightly fading Canelo and ascending Munguia. Munguia, again, to keep it in basketball terms, he's high offense, very little defense. He's more like the Mike D'Antoni Suns back in the day. You know what I mean? They were real fun. Amari Stoudemire, real fun. They were high flying offensive, but they had no defense, and so they couldn't win the big one. They couldn't win the NBA title. I feel like Munguia is a top level fighter. Obviously, he's been a champion. There's multiple world titles in every weight class here. So he's elite. Listen, he's elite. He's the top guy. It's just, for me, it's not the guy you're supposed to be fighting. It's not even any of the top two guys supposed to be fighting, but it'll make a lot of dollars and cents because Munguia is a very popular Mexican fighter, and he fights in the classic Mexican style. High offense, lots of fun to watch, combination punching, hittable. It'll be interesting because Canelo's sense of timing, again, Canelo's still shrewd. Canelo's still sly like a fox in there. You know what I mean? He can punch in between you. He's got that timing. So there are still talking points here for this fight that can make it interesting.
And power is the last thing to go, Paulie.
Yeah,
Canelo does have power.
Go. And it's just not the fight that I wanted. But we're gonna still talk about it, like you guys said. I mean, Canelo is still a very popular fighter.
Paulie, don't sound so down. This is a good fight.
Look, man. I'm gonna turn the corner real quick. I'm about to turn the corner because I got to make something be known right now, man.
Gotcha.
Like we talking about Benavidez and we want to see Benavidez face Canelo and now we're talking about Munguia and so on and so forth. Like we're talking about like Benavidez, like he's some gangster, like, you know what I mean? Like he's supposed to dominate Canelo and so on and so forth. I don't think so. I don't think so. And Benavidez, didn't he walk away from an opportunity to face against Morrell? David Morrell in the division? If he's that damn bad, he would have took that fight with Morrell. But the reason why he would have.
But it's still on Canelo though, because Canelo locked James the whole weight class. Everybody's waiting for a shot at Canelo, so that's the problem. Now nobody wants to fight each other. That's the log jam you create when you do that. When you're the money guy.
And so now back to Munguia real quick. I just had to throw that out there. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. It's a great point.
Yeah, he should have.
That's created because of Canelo.
But instead of fighting Morrell, what is Benavidez doing? He's going up to go face who? A guy that's coming back, Fosdick. Okay, so everybody's making their moves. Everybody is trying to protect that O and making their moves. All right, now we're talking about Munguia. Munguia is dangerous. You know, the more and more I look at this fight, he's a dangerous fighter for Canelo at this point in his career because again, we go back, we talk about the volume. We talk about how hard this guy hits, how bigger he is of Canelo Alvarez. He's bigger than Canelo. He's
6 feet tall, Tim. He's 6 foot 10.
Towering Canelo.
Canelo's 5'8". I think people forget that.
And look, and if he develops a really good jab, he has to, because that's how you beat Canelo. You got to have a really good jab to offset his forward plotting, coming forward, high guard, up. If you can hit that jab on him and keep that jab on him all night, which he showed a pretty decent developed jab with the under the tutelage of Freddie Roach just recently in the fight with Ryder. I mean, coming in this fight, develop a jab. He comes behind with that right hand. If he was to get a little bit better with his footwork, you know, and slipping and keeping that lead hand up at home, you know what I'm saying, to be able to block that overhand or that looping right that Canelo likes to throw. And if he can take Canelo's punch and still be there, his best punch now early and still be there, he is damn dangerous because he has a motor too, guys. Yep. You know, but this is going to be a good fight, man. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a great fight. I can't wait till this fight happens. It's going to be extremely entertaining for the fans at home. You know, don't be sleeping. Don't sleep on this man, Munguia. I'm letting y'all know right now, he could surprise you. He's young, you know, and I would say somewhat dumb too. You know, and you don't know until you actually know people. You know, he don't know how good he really is. Well, he's going to get in there with a legend like Canelo Alvarez, and we all going to find out the same damn time how good he really is.
That fight is less than a month away on pay-per-view. All right, quick break here on Deep Waters. We'll talk about the trainers and how they will impact this fight between Saul Alvarez and Jaime Munguia. Welcome back to Deep Waters. Now, that Canelo Munguia fight is a matchup of legendary trainers, Eddy Reynoso for Canelo Alvarez and Freddie Roach for Jaime Munguia. All right, Paulie, which fighter has the advantage because of their relative trainer, their trainers?
They both have a distinct advantage. You know, obviously Eddie's been with Canelo a long time. His father brought up Canelo, and he kind of inherited Canelo, and you know they know each other very well. There's a great chemistry there. And for Freddie, I mean, his resume speaks for itself. He's made every fighter he's worked with better, you know. And Munguia is a very high offensive fighter, and but Freddie's a very offensive trainer as well, you know. And so I think the marriage could work very well. And I think you saw it with the stoppage of John Ryder from Munguia. I think, you know, there's a lot of possibilities. So it's definitely a talking point, and it's a talking point that deserves to be on the platform there as far as going into this fight right now, especially at the point in the career of where Canelo is right now. Can Reynoso sort of get the best out of the aging old horse? And can Munguia sort of clean up the fat and trim the fat with Freddie Roach and do what he needs to do to get past this shrewd veteran that is Canelo? Also, I want to make one last point. If Benavidez fought Morrell, Canelo would definitely not fight the winner. That's another reason why they don't fight each other. Who's next?
All right, Tim, the question is to you. Which fighter has the edge? Who's the better trainer in this matchup between Reynoso and Roach?
I mean, look. You got Canelo. I think I would say he's a more experienced horse here. You know, as far as the trainer goes, Reynoso knows him extremely well. He's developed his style to what it is today. I wouldn't call it a peekaboo style, but he uses that high guard. He moves his head side to side, good waist bend, counter punches in between very well, slow and plotting, constantly putting pressure on you, digging you down to the body, breaking you down little by little, and hopefully getting close enough to be able to knock you out. But he hasn't knocked anybody out in a while. And on the other side, you have, Freddie Roach, who's known for training Manny Pacquiao. Of course, I think he's a 7 or 8-time trainer of the year. I mean, if you compare the two, you already know Freddie is the better trainer, in my opinion. He has more accolades. He's seen it all. And he has a younger horse who's ambitious and hungry. Listen to me. Hungry fighters are dangerous. Canelo, do you still see the fire in his eyes? No, he's not facing Benavidez. He ain't looking for those type of fights. But he can get that type of fight with a young guy like freaking Munguia, a guy that's hungry, determined to show, how great he is. This is his opportunity. He's been waiting on this for a very long time, and it's kind of fell into his lap. And so, Freddie, he takes things serious and personal, and Freddie as well. Trainers, they compete too, so Reynoso and Freddie are going to be competing as well. And each guy want their guy to win. So at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to the fighters at the end of the day. The game plan, I know Freddie's going to come in with a game plan. If he watch film of Canelo, he's going to see a ton of tendencies.
It's not a direct comparison, and thus not a direct matchup of trainers, because Eddy Reynoso developed with Canelo and has been with him for a long time. This is only the second fight and thus the second camp that Freddie has been with Munguia. It normally takes several camps for the trainer relationship to really, really meld. But you got to look at it in this sense that Freddie's a specialist trainer at this point. He didn't bring up Munguia, but Munguia has a product already. He's gonna make it better. He's gonna fine tune. He's gonna specialize. That's what he's gonna do, and it's gonna help to improve him. And certainly we saw that in the last fight. It did. How much improvement can he make between fight 1 and fight 2, or camp 1 and camp 2 for this Canelo fight? That's really the question. But generally, it takes a few camps for trainers and fighters to really, really meld together. So you really can't compare them in terms of who is more advantageous, because they're both very, very different trainers in terms of what they have in front of them and their charges. But either way, Freddie always, like you said, Champ, Paulie, Freddie always makes guys better, regardless of how little time he's had with them or not. We saw how good he looked Munguia against Ryder in their very first camp. So let's see how much he can do getting ready for Canelo.
What about the fact that Freddie's been here before?
Very quickly, Tim, very quickly. We got to go.
What about the fact that he's been here before, and the morale boost he's going to have for a guy like Munguia? That's important too. Someone that's confident as Freddie is, and he can instill that into his fighter and let him know that, hey, you're ready for this moment. And, he can have Munguia believe in everything he says and and that can propel him to do great things.
And Tim, to that point, also on the opposite side, having Freddie across from you matters. You and I have fought a bunch of Freddie's guys over the years. Having Freddie across from you, that makes a difference to the opponent as well. So he has that kind of power.
Yeah, just another storyline to the Canelo-Munguia fight. All right, that does it for Deep Waters. Don't forget, every Monday through Friday, we do it here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel.